I'd like to talk today about a very interesting shaila that I was asked while in South America by a very chashuv al tshuva there, who, after many, many years of being married to a non-Jew, left his non-Jewish spouse and started his life again, married a Jewish woman, a wealthy individual. His question was, for about 20 years, he was earning parnasa very successfully and not giving Maaser on that money. Now, 20 years later, retroactively, is he obligated to give Maaser on his earnings, his revenue? Because we know Chazal tell us Taser Kadesha to Asher, right? You should give Maaser to become wealthy. Perhaps this mitzvah obligates him to look at retroactively at all the money he earns and to try to separate Trumas and Maaser. So this was a question that was presented to me, and I'd like to try to quickly go through this question, try to get a clear understanding of it. First of all, we have to understand, where does the Chi of Maaser come from? The pasuk in Dvarim Yud Daled Chaf Beis says, "Aser Taser is called Tuas Zarecha, Hayotzi Asada Shana V'Shana." The main obligation to give Maaser is on crops, right? Specifically wheat, dagan, tirish v'yitzar, wine and oil, and the Tosfos in Tainus, Testament base, Tosfos learns from this obligation that we have to give Maaser on a Tfuah. He learns out that this also applies to to our money as well, right? To his money as well. And the Taz in Shulchan Aruch, Shin Lamed Aleph Lamed Beis in Yeridea, he says, "Diesh lidmos Maaser shemifarshem in a revach mammon, then Maaser ani shetron bears." We know that we're now in Shnasa Shemitah, but the first 2 years in the Shemitah cycle, there was a separate chiyuv of Maaser Sheni, and the third and sixth year there was a chiyuv of Maaser ani. So the Taz learns out from that obligation of Maaser ani that you have to take Maaser not just on your produce, but on your money as well, and that would make it a Torah obligation. There's also the opinion of the Shai Ephraim, one of the Gedolei Poskim, the Shai Ephraim, right, and that we can learn out an obligation, a Torah-dik obligation, a Chi of Torah, that just as there's an obligation to give Maaser on your peiros, on your produce, to give on your finances as well. And when I discussed this question with my Rebbe, Rav Safrani, he suggested that if the obligation is a Torah obligation, then it could well be that even if a person didn't give for 20 years Maaser, but he should try at least to give Maaser on the other, on the past, because the Torah obligates you. So the obligation was on you, you didn't fulfill it, and now retroactively you could fulfill it, right? Let's say a person earned $1 million a year for 20 years, $20 million, right? Assuming that he could take, he has $2 million accessible to him, it would, according to these opinions, it would be proper to give $2 million to Maaser. Of course, it doesn't have to be all at once, and the person has the money, so I could direct them to a worthy causes. But this is only according to, by the way, minority opinions. Most opinions hold that this is not a deraisa, a Torah obligation. It's derabanan, and this is the Sefer Leket Yosher, one of the Rishonim. He was a student of the Trumas Hadeshin. He writes, "Minag Ostreich," that was to give Maaser. Says she'ein minag Ostreich litei Maaser min haribos shar dvarim rak anoshim yuchadim sheim chasidim Maaser miyad kshivu revach mikol dam. right? It seems like it was a minhag Hasidus in Austria to do this. And other Svarim as well, the Igris Moshe, very interesting Igris Moshe, and Evan Ezer, Chilek Gimel, Simin Mem Gimel, he brings Tosfos and he says that even though Tosfos brings a pasuk from the Torah, he brings a Torah verse to back up this obligation, but he said it's not Doraisa, it's not Torah obligation, it's not even Dorabanan, right? It's it's only a minhag. It's only a minhag. Only a minhag. It doesn't. It's not a direct obligation that Chazal put upon us, right? And this seems to be the majority opinion amongst the Rishonim and amongst the poskim that it's a minhag. Giving Maaser is a minhag and not not an obligation, right? Even the Rambam, when the Rambam brings this the halachas down of Matnas Aniyim, Parak Zion, halachas Matnas Aniyim, right? He says that you should give Aniyim what you can, according to what you're able to. He doesn't mention that Maaser. He just says a small amount of money every year, shlisha shekel b'shana. In other words, there's an obligation to give stock up, but not necessarily an obligation to tithe your produce. In any event, those are their opinions. Now, the certainly the fact we know that it was a tkanas usha not to give too much, not to give too much money, and if a Baal Tshuva 20 years later, right, probably of the $20 million he earned, he spent a good part of it. Giving $2 million all at once could be very detrimental to his financial and shalom bayis situation. And that's definitely a major concern over here. We don't want him to weaken his Torah observance because of that. I heard a beautiful idea from my Rebbe, Moshe Sternbach, said that Maaser is a shutfis for the Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? We can learn out from Tosfos that Aser Kadesh Taser, there's a partnership with the Bari Olam. And when a person has a company or a field or whatever he has, and he's giving Maaser, he's in a partnership with Hashem. Hashem is, as it were, has a 10% holding in his investments. And that 10% holding makes a partnership between Hashem and the person himself. So said Rav Sternbach, that was only when you actually have the partnership going on. But for the 19 years before this Baal Tshuva became religious, he didn't have a partnership. So therefore, Sternbach paskins that the chiyuv is only on the current revach, the current profit that you're making now, but not on the past, only on the future, right? Right, only on the future, not on the past, right? Now he said, look, if the person has the money available and he could do it, it's certainly a midas chasidus to give the money for the past, but he certainly shouldn't strain his shalom bayis or potentially put his Torah observance in jeopardy by over donating from his funds. And it seems that definitely the the norm is if a person starts giving generously, he has many people find out about it quickly today. News travels very fast, and he will soon have hundreds of people at his doorstep um, vying to get his funds. Should do things slowly and thought out and carefully. Try to give to the organizations and the individuals which he chooses to do and which he connects to, but not to overburden himself by giving too much tzedakah. It could be very likely that it's the Sahara to pull him away from strong Torah observance. But definitely on the future, if he can partner with Hashem by giving Maaser from his company or from his work, so he actually creates a partnership with Hashem, which is a beautiful idea that he can bring Hashem into his business, as it were, and make him a partner. My Rebbe Rav Safrani told me a story from the Up the Rav of a man whose blessings were all accepted, his brachas were all accepted. And after I went to his house and was trying to figure out like where did he get these supernatural powers, and he pressed him hard until the person admitted that his business was going very poorly, and he went to find a partner. And he traveled for many, many days and weeks. And one day it dawned upon him, why do I have to travel so far for a partner? I want to make Hashem my shutfas. He said, Hashem, I'm making for now a 50-50 partner. Everything I earn from now on, 50% goes to me and 50% goes to you. And he started giving 50% of the money to Stucca, and he really had a partnership with Hashem. And as a result, all of his blessings were answered. It's a very nice story. Again, halacha l'maisa, a person is not supposed to give more than chomish. There are extenuating situations where a person is very, very wealthy and all of his needs are easily covered by a small part of his income. As once I was in California and there's a chashav a yid named Dick Horowitz, and when I went to speak to him about donating to my call, he said, it's hard for me to donate since I give 100% of my income to Stucca. He was giving to Aisha Torah. So, a person gives 100% of income to Stucca, he has other earnings where he can support himself. But a person should, on one hand, be careful to make Hashem part of his business, to see all the blessing that comes from that. But on the other hand, be careful not to overextend themselves and be themselves needing, be recipients of tzedakah. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help all of us to earn parnasa b'shefa, to be able to give to worthy causes, to know which causes are worthy, identify them, and to give them. And of course, Eitzah definitely helps in these areas. A person should consult with their rabbanim to try to know where is the best place for them to invest their tzedakah. Of course, I heard once a very beautiful idea is that Hashem puts in everyone's hearts certain causes so that every cause should be taken care of. Shivas, koilim, seminaries, mikvahs, shuls, svarim, whatever it might be. And Hashem should give us the Eitzah Tova and the Siyata Deshmaya to be able to properly understand how to distribute our tzedakah funds and give us the funds to do it and give us the simcha and the joy of tzedakah. It shouldn't be a burden on us. It should be a simcha and a joy. One yid told me that in his neighborhood, it's cheaper to go out to eat on Sunday than stay home. So many people come to his door and collect. And it's important to know people collect. It's not an easy job. There are people there who are not sincere, but there are many people who are sincere. The main thing in giving tzedakah is to make the person feel good. And even if you're not able to give a lot of money, if you're able to give the person strength and a good feeling and chizuk, the Gemara in Baba Basra says that's more important than actually giving tzedakah. To keep all these ideas in mind, Hashem should give us the greatest siyata d'shmaya to have true atzlacha, true success in this area. Amen.